What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, Pitolinmotionsocial, a place for busy people and dream chasers looking to achieve their goals in a more efficient way. So if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Ira and I do project management, self-improvement and the occasional vlog vision. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if that sounds good to you. And if you're back for another video, my lovely subscribers, hello, welcome, hope you're good. Let's get straight into this one. All right guys, so this video is gonna be part 2 of my project management tools. And I know I said it was meant to come out a long time ago and it's just coming out now, but it's all right because it's here right now. If you haven't watched part 1 where I effectively show you how to create a simple project schedule, make sure you definitely go back to go and watch that, because a lot of what we're going to do in this video, and as you can tell from the title, it is creating a budget, will really depend on knowledge made in the first video. So we're literally going to be making a simple, let's say it again, simple project budget for the project schedule which we made in the previous video. And then in part 3 I'm gonna be breaking down RAID. All right, so let's get straight into it. Like before, I'm gonna be giving you a live view of me making this budget with you, so that if you're a starter or you're just getting into project management, this is really for you to understand, you know, at a very basic level, the building blocks for a very basic plan. In a separate video, I'm gonna go into forecasting and tips on how to manage your plan. I might put in a couple tips in this video as well, but I'll do that more in depth. Right now, we really just want to talk about, you know, how to make a good project budget. To start with then, it's really key to highlight that there are generally in a project when you're starting up 2 types of expenditure: resource expenditure and then NRE. Resource expenditure is basically the cost of human labor. It's going to be the cost of all of those people that were assigned to different deliverables in that plan that we did in part 1. How much they cost, how much it's going to cost for them to deliver on your project. And that is usually referred to as a resource cost. On the other hand, we also have a different type of costs, normally referred to as NRE, which stands for non-recurring expenditure. And these are like one-off costs that won't need to be used going forward after the project is delivered, but will be needed in order to deliver the project. So examples of NRE could be equipment, prototypes, if you need to buy a prototype in a factory and build something physical, software that the engineers might need for the design phase. These are all good examples of NRE. If you need to contract a bit of work out to a consulting firm, that will also come under NRE, even though it's resources or human labor that will be doing the work. Because you're contracting it out to a separate company, most times it will be referred to as NRE. So I just want to make that distinction, because when you are setting up your own project budget and assuming that you've already come up with your plan, because you need a plan to come up with a budget. You can't come up with a budget if you don't know what you're going to spend money on, okay? So you need to come up with a plan first before you can make a budget. So assuming you've set up your project plan, or schedule, sorry, I should say. Once you've got your schedule in check, you will need to then put together 2 types of budget, which we're gonna dive into right now. So I'm just gonna go straight down to my screen now so we can do this together. Okay, right now I'm in Excel and I'm gonna show you how to make it in Excel, because personally, like I said in my previous video, you might not have a lot of expensive project management software, but everything at a basic level can be used in Excel. If you're not happy with Excel, you're not best buds with Excel, I suggest you become best buds with Excel, because Excel gonna be best buds with you as a project manager. Just putting it out there. Cool. So I'm currently in Excel now. And in the first tab, I've got resource, which is gonna be my resource budget. And in my second tab, I've got NRE, which is gonna be my NRE budget. To save time, and I'm going to explain how I've got this template, but it takes a bit of time to set up and I don't want this video to be too long. I've already put together the template It looks long, it looks complicated. Believe me, guys, it's not that long, it's not that complicated. Stay with me, stay with me. But yeah, we're gonna go through it line by line. Okay, starting with the resource. First of all, it's always good to set the scene of your budgets, no matter which budget is NRE or resource. Usually it's always great to put a section at the top. It can be wherever with the project name. So in this example, it's called Project 4. So I'm just going to put in 4 there. And all I literally did was write project name and then Project 4 to the side. Put in a column of a cell, of who the project manager is. In this case, it's me. So I'm going to put my name and a resource code. Usually when you assign the project, your project is given a code name, a project code or a resource code for you to book to that project, so that when people are handing in their timesheets that work on your project, it will automatically come from your budget. So make sure you put that in there as well as a quick reminder where people should be booking their time. So in this example, I'm just going to make it up and I'm just going to call it HTYU12. Yeah. I don't know, each company is going to be different, right? Okay, now before we go on to what's in the rest of the grey section, let's just go a little bit lower. So in a basic budget, a resource budget, is really key to have the following columns, and all you just need to do is set these up, right? A project code or the resource code, sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. A project code generally is for the whole entire project, so NRE and also resource, or it could just be the resource code, doesn't matter, just check with your company. The name of the person that is going to be working on that project for that particular activity, make sure you get that in. Employee number, sometimes it's just useful to put it in here. I blanked it out because I can't be bothered to think about lots of random numbers for this example. The role of the person working is always great to just put that in. Supplier or third party supplier, if they are external or a contractor, it might be useful to put that in. SOW stands for statement of work. Sometimes on larger projects, there might be little bits of work packages within that project, so deliverables that are quite chunky. And because of that, if it's more complex, or maybe it comes from a change request, something that wasn't in the initial scope, it might have a separate statement of work, a description of deliverables for that particular bit of activity. I know I did not explain that exceedingly well. I'll try to put a description down below to just compensate for whatever I just said. But yeah, that might be needed. Rate. So rate in this example, you can either choose between a day rate, a monthly rate, but generally a day rate. So how much is that person paid per day? And then in the next column, I've got day, month, and season. So some people pay seasonally, but you know what, let's not even deal with that. In this example, we're going to be working on day rates. So I'm going to explain to you why that's really important. But for this example here, the rate will be, say, £20, and then it will be per day. We're going to work with a daily rate. I've got a column here for comments and that, because you just never know when you need any comments or something that you just need to put in to jog your memory. All right, so those are the kind of basic headers that you should always have in your project budget. There might be so many more, but like I said, this is just a basic ting here. Now, the complexity comes in a little bit more if we move to the right. So what we're trying to understand basically is for, each period of time, how much will a particular resource cost? So we know from our project plan when that resource will be used. So we're going to use the project plan as a clear way of understanding, when that resource needs to be used. We need to understand what month they're going to be used, because mostly a lot of companies will update their budget monthly, invoice their suppliers monthly, etc. So usually you will do a monthly reforecast. So what we have here then is a column for each month of the year. So January through to December, I've put a column. Forget about what's in the grey for now. Let's just cover what's in the green for now. Similarly, I've just put a 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12 to represent the month that it's going to be in, because it's just a little bit easier to the eye. So the first thing we want to do is understand how many working days there are going to be in the month and make sure that that is calculated, because not every single day in the work month is a working day, and we only want to charge for working days. So what I've done here is differentiate between working days for each month and put how many working days are in each month underneath the row which I have for the month. So I've used 2022 in this example because our project is going over 2022, and worked out how many working days there are. I've then worked out how many bank holidays there are, or public holidays in some other countries they might be called. They're called bank holidays in the UK. And those are days that basically people won't be working because the bank, I don't think the bank gives it us, but either way, the government has given that to us as a public holiday. So I've also written that down, how many days there are just below. And then underneath that row, I've made a quick, simple calculation, as you can see, L3 minus L4, which is basically the number of working days in the month minus the amount of bank holidays in that month, and then we'll get how many real working days are in that month. And that's really key if you want to have a very accurate project budget. So dragged along that formula, not difficult at all, and then we can see in row 6, how many real working days there are in each month. Cool, perfect. So this is good. We've set that up at the top, and we're going to understand why we have done that in just a minute. We really just want to understand how many working days there are, because we are going to be charging people per day. Cool. So before we go into effectively what's in column X to AI, which is going to automate and calculate the cost for you, let's start to input things into our budget. Let's start to get a little bit of information from the project plan in which we went through last time. So we set up all the columns, we have the key information here, and we also know the months, and we know when people are going to work. So let's put that in now. I'm going to be flicking back and forth from the project plan view to the budget, just so we know what we're doing. So the first step then is to start filling out all the data. We want to fill out what the project code is going to be. And in this example, it's going to be the resource code, the project code, the resource code, the NRE code is all going to be the same. Check with your company if it's the same with yours. So I'm just going to drag that down. And I've made a mistake. Don't do that. I've made a little bit of a mistake and dragged it down, and it's just increased the numbers, but it should all be the same. Right. Next, we need to know all of the people working on your project. And you already know that because you already highlighted it in your plan. So let's flick to our plan to know who's working on our project. And here we can see we have engineer 1, engineer 2, engineer manager. We have factory, and in this example, factory is going to be a separate cost in the NRE because we're contracting out that work to a particular person. So it's going to come as a bill at the end of the day. So let's leave that out. I mean, we're contracting it out to a business. Let's leave that out. We have a PM, we have a compliance manager, we have execs. And for this example, we're going to assume that execs are, not a budget resource, so therefore they don't need to be in our budget. They are just kind of across everything, so not specific to the budget. And we have also the propositions team as well. So the propositions team, once again, they're across lots and lots of different budgets, so we're not going to include them in this. So let's put all of the people that we are going to use in our project plan into our project budget. Cool, so I've done that. Not that many people on this one for this example, so I'm just going to get rid of all these project codes. All right, so all we need to know now is obviously we would normally put their name, and it's really key to put their name, because when we go on to how much they cost, you know exactly what that will be. But I'm just going to copy their role into the role section, because that's currently their name. Let's just put it that way. None of these people are third-party suppliers. So in this example, we're just going to put NA. They're not contractors or anything like that. Statement of work, I'm also going to put NA in this example because we're just going to assume that there's been no change requests and everything's under the same work statement from the beginning. Rate is really key. Here we need to put how much that person is paid per day, because we are going to be doing a daily rate to work out how much they're going to be needed on the budget. So the daily rate for engineer 1, we're just going to put £300. Daily rate for engineer 2, we're going to put £400. Engineer manager, we're just going to put £500. The PM, we're going to put £600. And the compliance manager, we're going to be £700. This is not a reflection of how much these people are paid. Of course, you know that depending on what industry and what you're doing, you can be paid all kinds of monies, but I'm just trying to make my life simple right now. Cool. In the next column, we're going to put D because we're going to be doing a daily rate. So just put D, and we can also drag that down. So in the months then, we want to understand as a percentage of that person's full capacity, and that would equal 1, i.e. 100% of their capacity. How much of that time are they going to spend on your project? And that's what you're going to be putting in that month cell. So very simply, let's not make this complicated. For engineer 1, for example, we want to know in January, how much time are they spending on that project? Are they spending all their time on that project that whole entire month? And if that's the case, we'll put 1 there. And if they're not, then we'll put half, say they're spending half their time. If they're spending, say, 2 weeks roughly in a month. So let's have a little look at our project plan, because we're not guessing what's going on here. We're not guessing what's going on here. We are checking. And we can see in engineer 1 in January, all his time is on the project, completely on the project. So in the plan, in the budget, we're going to put 1. We know that 100% of his time is there, no problem. As you can see at the top also here, where it's got FTC, which stands for forecast to complete. I'm going to get there why it started to generate a cost, but let me just spoil it a little bit. All it's basically done, it said, okay, you're going to work 100% of your days, which is 19 days, at a cost of $300 per day, and it's calculated it for you. Don't worry, we're getting there. Stay there, stay there. I'm going to show you how to do them formula. I'm going to show you how to do that formally. It's going to be fine. All right, so then basically what you do is literally go through your project plan, each resource, and see where they're going to be working. So let's just take engineer 1, for example. Again, in February, what does engineer 1 do? Engineer is working 100% of his time on the project because they're designing stuff. Once again, I put 1. In March, what is engineer 1 doing? Engineer 1 is only working, I can see, half their time on the project in March. So I do not need to create a cost or forecast them to a cost for them for the whole entire month. Instead, I'm going to put 0.5. So I only need them for half the time I need. Sorry about that, guys. Slight error. It should actually be 1 because engineer 1 is used during the review period as well. So yeah, just please excuse that mistake. And that's exactly what you do all the way through for each month for each engineer. For the sake of this activity, I'm just going to do a couple examples. I'm not going to do the whole entire from January to December, but you can basically get the gist. Let's do engineer 2 just to see and make sure we understand it a bit better. So engineer 2, when is engineer 2 even needed? As we can see here from our project plan, engineer 2 is only really needed for 2 weeks, roughly half the time in March. And that's all I need to put them for. I don't need to put anything for them in Jan or Feb. I only need them in March for 2 weeks. And that's 50% of their time. So roughly, by the way, these are all estimates, unless you know 100% what's gonna happen in life, which no one does, only God Almighty. We're just gonna have to estimate or forecast what we believe based on the information we have in our plan. And that is why it's so crucial that your plan is as accurate as it can be. The more accurate your plan is, the more you know, the less assumptions you have, the less risky it is, the more accurate your budget will be. Remember that. So back to the budget. Let's use the example of the PM though, because the PM's a little bit different. If we look at our project plan face value, it only looks like we need the PM for a couple milestones, one in June. We also need the PM for a milestone in July, and we also need the PM for another milestone in July, and also a little bit towards the end of the project. Does that mean that the project manager doesn't need to, their time working throughout this project doesn't need to be taken account of? No, it does. It really, really does. Just because the project manager isn't physically shown working throughout the plan is because they're not physically doing the work. And the project schedule will show throughout the project who's actually doing the work. But the project manager is constantly managing the process, making sure that the work is getting done, tracking deliverables, doing reforecasts, etc. So their time is going to be required. You'll need to really, really just use your initiative to kind of think, when will the project manager be used? But most time, unless you're on multiple projects, you'll be booking your full time to this project. So from all the way from January to September, and maybe even just a little bit after September, just in case there's any wrap-up work to be done, the project manager will need to be billed. So in this example, I'm just going to put 100% of the PM's time, wrong line, 100% of the PM's time all the way from January, oh dear, what's going on here? All the way from January to the end of September, to just allow a couple weeks just in case there's extra mop-up work to do. So I hope you can see here how you can fill in different resources, time from their capacity for the whole entire month as a percentage of what they're doing. So remember, look at your project plan and then look at how much time I need them for that. For the sake of this, because time is of the essence, I'm just going to go in and just fill it in, and then I'm going to show you how you can pull out calculations. Guys, so how does it actually pull through figures? So at the side, what you just need to do is similar to what's been done in the green section over here to your left. Just create the same headers again to your right, and this is where we're going to put some formula in to make these costs. Effectively, what we want to pull out is in this formula, and if you're not big on Excel, just feel free to just copy and paste it. We basically want to say that, if cell here, the one with the DMS, i.e. is day, if that cell is D, i.e. we're looking at a daily rate, then what I want to do is times the daily rate, which is the red bit, by how many days in the month, working days in a month, which is the green bit. And then I also just want to times it by the percentage of time that they're going to be working in that month. So in this example, in the cell that I've clicked, it's going to be 100% of the time. So what I'm basically saying is £300 for 19 days. I want 100% of that cost to be added into my budget, and when I press enter, it comes up with a nice cost. I realized that my formula was a bit off in the previous bit that I said, so I've rectified it now, and it comes up to 5,700. Make sure also when you're copying this across, if you want to, you put in the dollar signs in the appropriate places. I'm just going to leave that there for you to do so that it doesn't move around the formula. And all you need to do is drag it all across to December and drag it all the way down so it picks it up for anything that you may do. And all your costs are picked up there. So I hope that kind of makes sense. What you're really trying to understand is each day, how much does a resource cost? How many days they're going to work during that month. And the easiest way I found to do that is to work out a rough estimate of the percentage of that month that they're going to work on your project. And by doing that, you can see in the totals column, you get a total amount for the whole entire project. And if you just do a sum of each section, which is all I've done here, a sum from the top cell in for all of the resources in January all the way down, then you can know how much it's going to cost you in each entire month as well. Hope that's all clear. Just going to push that out there, and we can see that our cost for this project is going to be £155,810. Whose chalet is just a small project, and resource alone is going to cost a lot. The last thing you should do, and I definitely think you should do because it will be really, really helpful for when you're reforecasting how much you've actually spent versus how much you're allowed to spend, is to just do an equal sign for the total down here, the 155,000, etc., into a cell near the top called FTC. FTC stands for forecast to complete. Besides it here, I have variance. Variance is really key because once you deliver a month worth of work and people book to your projects, you'll get an actual, basically what people actually spent on that project. And then you'll update your January to basically say, okay, I was meant to spend, in this example, £17,100 in January. Did I actually spend that? Let's say I spent £16,100. I have a variance of £1,000, and it will be able to show if you're over budget or under budget. Once you have your baseline figure for the project, and basically that's the amount that you hand in to the business to say this is how much it's going to cost at the beginning of the project, make sure you put it in the budget column right here in this cell. So just create one for yourself so I know what that is. And right now you can see that the variance is 0. The variance is basically the difference between what you actually spend and how much you're supposed to spend. So when you do reforecasting going forward, you'll be able to see if you're over budget or under budget. So I'll show you in a next video. If you find this useful, give it a thumbs up, how to do that, or how to reforecast and reforecasting tips. All right, guys, so I think I've covered it all. Now that I've gone through it, it does seem a lot more complicated than it needs to be. You can always group up some of these cells just so there's not so much in your face. But effectively, I hope you understand the logic on making this, and feel free to make it a lot more simple for yourself. But I think this is just a really, really good way to make sure you cover all costs. Okay, let's just have a quick look at NRE, because I know this video is getting a bit long, but NRE, believe me, is a whole lot more simple. So flicking over to the next tab here, NRE, and I've really populated it once again to save some time. I'm just going to show you what's going on here. So also, once again, at the top is always really, really good, really, really key to just set up your budget right and have some key information. So project name for project manager is me, and the NRE code, like I said, it might be different from the project code. It might be the same. For this example, everything's going to be the same. So let me just copy and paste the NRE code because I just cannot. So let me just copy and paste that NRE code. Bam, right there. Okay, cool. And then similar to resourcing, we want to be able to just set up the appropriate columns in our budget to give us the necessary information required. So project code, once again, category in this scenario, and you could have put that in the resource budget too, but I don't know why I didn't. But yeah, just to differentiate, is it NRE, is it resource? I put NRE here. Name, vacancy, item description, all of that. In this case, it's not going to be name, it's going to be item description, because it's going to be a particular item that we're going to buy off as a one-off cost. We don't need employee ID, so actually we could just completely get rid of that. Let me just get rid of that, because why not? Hope I don't mess up any of my formula, ain't got time for that. Supplier, this one will be really key because you're probably gonna buy some of these items from a particular supplier. It's really useful to understand where you got that from. Purchase order, when you request a bit of equipment or service through your internal system, usually the supplier will require something called a purchase order. And basically it's just confirmation from the business that once they produce that piece of work or give you that piece of equipment, that you are going to pay them. It's kind of like locks it in that regard, as long as they deliver to you what they said they're going to deliver. Rate here is actually not going to be needed, so I'm just going to block that out, and comments as usual. So the same kind of scenario here then. I'm just at the top also just put in January through to December, so I know the costs that are going to be pulled in here. Similar, very similar kind of process of how to get costs for your NRE budget. You look at your project plan. Your project plan has all the information you need to create your budget. And I say that very loosely because there might be other information from other people, but generally at a very high level, it does. I've already pre-populated some things that I think we might need for the different phases that we need to create this new mobile device. So some of the things that we might need, and I'm just making this up, guys, for the purpose of this, is development models. You know, during the design phase, we might need some, you know, rough prototypes, and I'm not talking about the ones that we send off to the factory to make, just, you know, for the design of it. What does it look like on the outside? That kind of stuff. We might need some packaging to test it. You know, we're gonna put this thing inside some packaging, so we might need to test the packaging to make sure it's fine, and also to make the actual packaging itself. We might need to build some samples. So I've got a couple sample builds here. In this example though, I'm pretty sure that I've just got one build. Yeah. So yeah, we only got one prototype build that we're going to do at the factory. And in this example, you know, when in a resource cost, I didn't put in the cost of the factory because actually that will come as a cost of producing the samples. So you'll need to estimate that in this, for example, in this example that I'm giving. So yeah, what else have I got here? Test kits for final compliance. So when we go through final compliance, we might need test kits as well. Also the cost of final compliance testing. So when we go to the test lab and they do the final compliance testing for us, we also need to pay the test lab. That will come through as NRE, as an expense. The equipment needed for the demo, if there's anything that we needed for the demo, that will also be here. And I don't know, there might be some travel costs, etc. So I'm just trying to give you an example of the type of costs that come through as NRE, and basically you just list them all out. Then list out the supplier. I'm not feeling creative right now, so I'm just going to put the supplier is yes. The purchase order number, which will be unique for each order. So once again, when you put in an order, the supplier will get the purchase order for that order that you've put on. So I'm just going to put PO123, and hopefully that will just create a unique number for all of them. Perfect. And then guys, this is perhaps not simple, but also not too difficult, not as difficult as the resource budgeting. All you need to do here is to go and ask your suppliers, go and ask your engineering team, how much are these things gonna cost? You might not know exactly how much these things are gonna cost, but this is where you have a very good educated guess, a very good educated estimate of what things are going to cost. And how do you know that? You go and ask. You go and ask supplier, yes, I want to buy A, B, C, D, E equipment. How much is that going to cost roughly when I get round to it? How much is that going to cost? Basically, that's all you need to do. Cool. So in this example, once again, I'm not even going to match it up with the project plan at this stage, just because I don't want to spend too much time on this video, but you'll go through once again and just do a rough estimate of how much you think things will cost. So I'm just writing in random numbers, and also when you think that you'll spend it. So if you think, you know, final compliance testing, if you look at your project plan, for example, final compliance is of the prototype, you're doing that in July, I believe, right? So that cost is probably going to come out in July or August, most likely, once the work has been completed. It's going to cost you 20 grand. Bam. I'm going to put that right there. I hope I put that in the right. No, I did not. Make sure you put it in the right column. Just like that. And it's as simple as that, guys. You literally go through each life item. When am I likely to pay for this work? Usually after the work has been completed, and put an estimate of how much you think it's going to cost. I'm literally just filling in random bits right now, but you get the general gist. At the end of it, you'll have a total. So just total up all of those numbers. I've literally just totaled January to September here, and also totaled the whole entire month to get a whole total for the whole entire project. So that's how much it's going to cost so far, £51,000. Put it in your budget. So that's your baseline NRE cost, how much you think at the beginning of the project when you're handing in your initial budget, how much everything's going to cost. And then also there's a calculation for your variance. So for example, in January, where you're not meant to spend anything, let's use February. In February, where you're meant to spend £1,000, if you only spend £800, it will show as a variance of £200 once you update the actual amount to £800. Okay, guys, so that is basically how to make simple project budget. Now, as I was going through that, I can appreciate that setting it up at the beginning, especially in Excel, sometimes might not seem simple. But once again, if you're a new project manager or you don't have, you know, the project management tools that automatically do this for you, just think about how you can utilize Excel to get you to where you need to get. And if anything is, you know, too complicated, just drop me a line in the comments, and I'm gonna really try to answer it for you. I'm actually also thinking of putting together some of these templates as well, and finding a way to get it out to you guys. So if that's interesting to you, or you think that will be useful, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, and I'm gonna see what I can do to start getting out some of these templates, not just for budgeting, but for all kinds of project documentation. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I have so much more to come, especially part 3, where we have a little look at RAID. And then once we've looked at all of those things, I believe you guys, if you're starting a new project, will have the fundamentals, literally just the starting blocks to get your project moving. So hope you're all good. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video.